A wonderful old tale is about the painter Wu Dozi who lived in the 8th century. His last painting was a landscape commissioned by the Tang Emperor Zhongzong to decorate a palace wall. The master has hidden his work behind a screen so only the emperor would see it. For a long while, the emperor admired the wonderful scene, discovering forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immense sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. Look, sire, said the painter. In this cave at the foot of mountain dwells a spirit. The painter clapped his hands, and the entrance to the cave opened. The inside is splendid, beyond anything words can convey. Please let me show your majesty the way. The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him, and before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painter has vanished from the wall. Not a trace of Wu Dozi's brush was left, and the artist was never seen again in this world.
Such stories played an important part in the China's classical education. The Book of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. They help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. Beyond the anecdote, they are deeply revealing of the spirit in which the art was considered. Contrast this story for another famous one about a painter who wouldn't draw the eye of a dragon he had painted. For fear it would fly out of the painting with an old story from the native landers that I found most representative of the Western painting. In the second paragraph, it means that these stories played an important role in the classical education in China. Similarly, like the Book of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of such stories as they help the masters to help and guide his followers in the right direction. These stories were considered to be deeply revealing of the spirit, just like the art. There was another famous story in contrast to the previous one where the painter wouldn't paint the eye of a dragon. He feared that the dragon would fly out from the painting. It was one of the stories from many others which came from the medieval country in the Western Europe.
In 15th century Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quentin Metzys fell in love with a painter's daughter. The father would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession, so Quentin sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel with such delicate realism that the master tried to swat it away before he realized what had happened. Quentin was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. He married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age. These two stories illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve. A perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe, the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia. This means that during the 15th century in Antwerp, a master blacksmith named Quentin Metzys fell in love with the painter's daughter. Since the father was not accepting the relationship because of his profession, the blacksmith sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel. The painting was so real that the master tried to hit the fly away before he realized that it was just a painting. The blacksmith was accepted into the studio as a trainee. He married the painter's daughter and later became one of the famous painters of his age. The two stories told above are trying to illustrate the form of art in two different regions. In Europe, the art is perfect and like an illusion which resembles something. In Asia, the art gives an essence of inner life and spirit.
In the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and appreciates its outer appearance, but the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. The emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. Let me show the way, the Tao, a word that means both the path or the method, and the mysterious work of the universe. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. This paragraph means, as in the Chinese story, the artist reveals the true meaning of his work to the emperor who rules over his territory but didn't know the way within. The emperor only saw the outer appearance of the wall painting. The work was mysterious, and Dao, which means something which has both paths, is what the artist did. As the painting was gone after the artist reached the cave, the motive was fulfilled that some work is beyond material appearance.
A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view as would a Western figurative painting, whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle. The Chinese painter does not choose a single viewpoint. His landscape is not a real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down, then back again, in a leisurely moment. This is even more true in the case of the horizontal scroll, in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any other form of painting. It also requires the active participation of the viewer, who decides at what pace he will travel through the painting, a participation which is physical as well as mental. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes, he wants you to enter his mind. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and a conceptual space.
This concept is expressed as San Sui, literally mountain water, which used together represent the word landscape. More than two elements of an image, this represent two complementary poles, reflecting the Daoist view of the universe. The mountain in Yang reaching vertically towards heaven, stable, warm and dry in the sun, while the water in Yang horizontally and resting on the earth, fluid, moist and the cool. The interaction of Yan, the receptive feminine aspect of universal energy, and in counterpart Yang, active and masculine, is of course a fundamental notion of Daoism, which is often overlooked in an essential third element, the middle void where their interaction takes place. This can be compared with yogic practice of pranayama, breathe in, breathe in, breathe out. The suspension of breathing is void where meditation occurs. The middle void is essential, nothing can happen without it. Hence the importance of white and unpainted space in Chinese landscape.
This is also where man finds a fundamental role. In that space between heaven and earth, he becomes the conduit of communication between both poles of the universe. His presence is essential, even if it's solely suggested. Far from being lost or oppressed by the lofty peaks, he is, in Francois Cheng's wonderful expression, the eye of the landscape. This paragraph means that the middle void is where a man finds an important role. Man is the channel of communication in the space between heaven and earth, which are the two poles of the universe. Man's presence is essential. It is not being lost or suppressed due to high peaks, but he is the eye of the landscape.